Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the It Girl Mindset. I'm so grateful that you're here. Today, we have a very, very special guest, and that is Becca Nichols. She's a nervous system coach, somatic practitioner, and host of There She Glows podcast. Becca helps women regulate their nervous systems, process emotions through the body, and feel more grounded, connected, and fulfilled in every area of their lives, from relationships and career to how they experience pleasure. She's also my mentor, a close friend, and honestly, one of the funniest people I know. In this episode, we'll explore why so many women feel disconnected, anxious, or unfulfilled, even when they're doing all the right things. We talk about how nervous system dysregulation plays a major role in emotional health, why talk therapy alone isn't always enough, and how somatic work can feel like a psychedelic trip in the best way. We also explore what it really means to be an embodied it girl, not just someone who looks the part, but someone who feels safe in her body, clear in her emotions, and rooted in who she is. Let's get into it. Welcome to the It Girl Mindset, where I help you step into the next level version of yourself by mastering your mindset, manifesting your deepest desires, and connecting deeply with your body. It's about becoming the most authentic, radiant, unapologetic, and unbothered version of yourself. Together, we're going to chat about how to unlock your true potential and create a life that feels as good as it looks. If you're ready to become the healthiest, hottest, and most abundant version of yourself, you're in the perfect place. Let's get into it. Becca, my queen, I am
My queen.
so excited to have you here. Welcome to the It Girl Mindset.
Thank you for having me. To get the opportunity to have a conversation with one of my favorite humans on the planet, like sign me the fuck up. Let's go.
I know. I was like, as soon as we kind of talked about this, I was like, wait, I get an extra hour to myself with Becca. What a fucking vibe.
You're like, so it's actually a 5-part series. So I'm going to need you for 5 weeks in a row.
Literally. I'm like, sorry, we're going to have to come back every week for a while. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Yay. I'm so excited to get into it. So
Me too.
I thought we would just start off with a fun question by maybe triggering some people because you are the queen of that. And I think everyone has a negative connotation of being triggered. And I know I
Yes.
did. And I'm not saying being triggered is easy, but what's the truth about nervous system regulation that no one wants to hear, but they need to?
Your illness is not actually an illness. It's a symptom of a dysregulated nervous system. So I think right now in the world, we find safety and overly identify with having ADHD, having anxiety, having depression, having panic disorder, having PTSD. All of these things are real and valid, and they are their own illnesses in some cases, but in a lot of cases, and I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of clients, those identities and those quote unquote illnesses have literally vanished, right? Like that Simpsons meme where he's just like going back into the bushes. They say goodbye, see ya, once their nervous system is regulated. So I think that we do live in a world, and I'm just being completely honest and transparent, where there are many industries that thrive from keeping you in that identity and keeping you on medication for that symptom and treating it as its own illness. In actuality, when you learn how to regulate your nervous system, you no longer experience anxiety every single day. You're no longer in shutdown, which is parallel to depression. You are no longer in a hypervigilant state, aka your ADHD, right? So there is benefit to you not understanding your nervous system because then you're on some sort of drug or treatment plan for the rest of your life. Whereas when you are educated and empowered with the tools that you need, you can heal yourself. And who does that benefit? Not certain people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is so wild to me how much money pharmaceutical industries are making. Even for me, I remember going into the doctor once. This was probably 10 years ago, and I told her, I really have trouble sleeping. I don't know. I'm really struggling to sleep. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to, do all the healthy habit type of things like, no blue light, like reading before bed instead of scrolling. And she was like, do you feel like you have a lot of like anxious thoughts going on in your head? And I was, Actually, yeah, I do. I'm overthinking a lot. And she's like, perfect. I'm going to put you on an anti anxiety med and you're going to be able to sleep perfectly. And I
Oh,
was like, wait, oh, that because I was like just getting into holistic health. So I was questioning it, but I was like, you're the doctor, like if
right.
that's really, maybe I do have anxiety and I don't even know it. And so I didn't pick up the prescription, but she ended up putting it through. And then I just was really thinking about it and I was like, whoa, the fact
Mhm.
that I didn't even come to her and say, hey, I think I have anxiety and her ask some follow-up questions. It was like, oh, you struggle to sleep? She asked me one question and then it was
Mhm.
like, boom, here's a drug.
Yeah, exactly. And now you know that that tired but wired, restless feeling, insomnia is also a symptom of a dysregulated nervous system. It all comes back to that. And so there are just so many things within your emotional health, mental health, sexual health, social health, physical health that come back to your nervous system. But it's so much easier and so much more beneficial and so much more of a money making opportunity when you have no idea what the nervous system is and how it's impacting you. But then I was born, right? But then I was born. And they said, and she will speak and she will educate and she will
Yeah.
break them free.
Also, too, I think we live in a world with instant gratification, right?
Yes.
There's so many women that honestly, one, the education piece is definitely not there, but people want to take a pill and just magically
Yeah.
have their problems go away. They don't want to do that deep inner work. And so I'm just curious, what would you recommend to someone if they, because you're really good at hard truths, what would you
Yeah.
say to someone if they were like, oh, like I know I could spend time regulating my nervous system and doing the deep work, but a pill is just so much easier to take?
I mean, I understand where they're coming from, and I know that you do as well,
Yeah.
because doing that deep work on yourself can be really uncomfortable, really confronting. There's a lot of responsibility that needs to be taken on in order to get to the other side of that successfully. But I think standing on the other side of healing and regulating and growing and improving as a person, there's nothing that I wouldn't give, you know what I mean, to do this over again. And when I look at the version of me that didn't have the tools to regulate, that had a dysregulated nervous system, that was emotionally explosive and reactive, that was settling in all areas of her life, that is not a life that I want to live. And so those band aid solutions that give you momentary instant gratification or coping mechanisms or self soothing, they're just temporary. They're not going to lead you to ultimate fulfillment. They're not going to lead you to a big, juicy, fabulous, pleasurable life. And so you just have to choose what's more important to you. Is it that temporary comfort or is it long term satisfaction and fulfillment? And I really believe that that only comes from putting the work in. And so, yes, it's easier to just scroll. Yes, it's easier to just have a glass of wine or take a weed gummy or call a friend and emotionally dump on them. But those aren't real skills, right? When you are learning and growing and you're learning how to emotionally manage and how to regulate, like you're building lifelong skills that no one can take away from you. And it's just so empowering. It's such a different way of living. And so I would just recommend people to choose long term health and fulfillment over instant gratification or temporary relief.
Yeah. I love that. And I think too, people think healing has to be this intense, dark, horrible thing, right? But obviously, there are, when we're looking at our shadows, for example,
Hmm.
there's certain emotions, as you know,
Ouchie.
I hate feeling more than anything.
Yeah,
But not everything is like that. And on the other side of healing is true magic and true bliss. And I believe that allows you to come back to who you were always meant to be, right? Because we live in a
totally.
world where there's just so many things taking up our brain space And even for me, it was hard for me to even understand what I wanted or even have my own opinions before I regulated my nervous system because
Yeah.
I kind of saw myself as this person who doesn't have strong opinions or, didn't really have my own thoughts on something. And I
Yeah.
now understand that that was a coping mechanism because, I didn't want to ruffle any feathers, right? And so I was like, yeah, I don't really have that strong of opinion on things when at the end of the day, it was just because I wasn't in a regulated state. I was
Yeah.
working on past patterns and just these default patterns that I had known and had to survive growing up. And also, too, I talk a lot about my trauma. And from the outside looking in, it probably looked like I had such a beautiful
Right.
home. And
Yeah.
I did. But trauma is not just about what happened. It's actually not about what happened at all. It's about
Yeah.
how you experience the trauma. And
Yeah.
something that's been so helpful for me letting go of trauma, understanding my emotions is somatic therapy.
Mm.
And I have to bring this up because on some of the somatic therapy sessions, why does it feel like I'm on drugs? Like, genuinely, why am I hallucinating? Like, I need to know. I actually wrote down somatic therapy. Why does it sometimes feel like I'm on Molly? I literally wrote that down. I don't know
I'm
if I can put
dead.
that in a podcast episode.
That you lead. I vote that you leave that in. That was incredible. So, the way that I do somatic therapy is we always start with breath work. I don't think that you and I have ever had a session together where I haven't led with that. And when we are playing with your breath in that way, we are altering your state and we are also shifting you into a different brainwave if you are doing it right. So, we all know, we've all heard that when you're in that theta brainwave, that really malleable state of being, that's a really powerful time to meditate. And that's a really powerful time to sink in new beliefs because your brain is more of that sponge like consistency and you have access to your subconscious mind more easily. And so when we break down those walls, that's where I really feel like your body has an opportunity to come online. And to me, it's just so important to set that foundation where we are connecting with our bodies and turning down the volume on a lot of that internal noise that's up in our head so that our body's wisdom and intellect can really come through. But the reason why it feels like you're hallucinating or just out of control in a non like threatening way is because we're just so not used to tapping into our body and letting our body speak. And it's such a beautiful feeling, but it's one that unfortunately I feel like a lot of people will never get to experience because they spend so much time up in their heads and intellectualizing things rather than feeling them. And so most people are going through life so numb and disconnected from their bodies that when you actually tap into your body, it feels like an otherworldly euphoric experience, but it's just something that's so foreign to you that when you actually drop into it, it feels really wow. So I'm glad that you have those
Yeah.
experiences. I'm really,
No,
really glad.
I love breath work. Like, I love somatic therapy as a whole, but breath work,
Yeah.
it feels so powerful for me. And also, I just want to say your DJ skills are just
I
out
was
of
waiting
this
for this.
fucking world.
I
No.
was gonna be pissed if you didn't mention this. I was like, give me the shout out that I fucking deserve. I put hours into these playlists, bitch. Like, tell them, you know?
No, no, it's an experience because I think, I've done meditations and whatnot, of course, but something about the way you choose the music, I can feel the emotions and see the visualizations so much more
Yeah.
than if it was just, your voice, which again, I love your
Right.
voice as
Thank
well.
you.
But yeah, the music, and I'm someone who's always felt music very deeply, and I don't
Same.
know if this has to do with maybe being like more highly sensitive or where that comes from, but music truly makes me feel like it can change how I feel in an
Totally.
instant, which is why I've never done any sort of experience like your somatic therapy sessions where in the breath work where it truly just fits the vibe. Like
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
It is truly, all jokes aside, it is truly amazing, and it's such an experience. One song, I can't remember, this is probably like a month ago,
Yeah,
"Alive"
it
by
was
Sia.
Alive. I see it. Yeah, exactly.
I still listen to that song, and I'm just like, I immediately think of you because I'm like, "Oh my god." But no, it's true though, like, the music really impacts the whole
It
experience. It's amazing.
does. I'm the same as you. Like previously, if I was to turn on like a meditation or something of that nature and the vibes are just not right, whether it's the person's voice, like God bless them because that's not their fault, or it's the song, I cannot do it. And I think that comes down to two things for myself. Number one, I am like a really sensual person. And so I have
Mhm.
playlists for absolutely everything. And I think that music adds such an element. And it's really important that the vibes are right. And number two, I'm the same as you. Like my processing is very sensitive and music and sounds impact me. Lighting impacts me, like all of it really impacts me. And so it comes down to the vibes. Like the vibes have to be right. And I love the way that we incorporate music into our somatic therapy sessions and also adding in some of those soundscapes recently, like the waves and the
Yes.
forest. It's really just adds to the whole experience. And oftentimes I will do my own somatic therapy sessions, but oftentimes, like in the heat of the moment when I'm facilitating them, I'm like, I wish I was doing this.
Yeah,
Like, I'm so
yeah,
jealous.
yeah. No, no, seriously, and it's so funny, the first time you did the sounds, I just was picturing you in your office, just, like, DJing, like, adding all
That's
these
what was
sound effects.
happening. Just praying to the good Lord that the YouTube ads did not come on. I was like,
I
please,
don't know how
please.
you do that. I don't know how you do that. That would give me so much anxiety.
It's like, please, Lord, like, don't let this YouTube ad come on. And it has never happened. It has never
Oh my
happened. So
god.
I'm so, so grateful for that. Yeah. So,
Oh my god, I'm dying. No, somatic therapy sessions are so fire, and
yeah.
it really what you do a really great job of is really helping to feel an emotion.
Yeah.
We, as a society, are not told how to feel our emotions. And as someone who was always a cry, still am a crier, but always being told, don't cry, like use your
Right.
words, and whatever capacity I was, whether it was directly stop crying or another way, like I was always told to stop. And so I never learned how to feel my emotions because I thought my emotions were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just love your take on how you help people feel their emotions
Yeah.
and some steps people can take to start understanding them and then start feeling them and ultimately kind of like releasing them from their body.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, when I started to dive into the world of the nervous system and somatic therapy, so working with your body, I felt really cheated. I will say there have been phases of my life that I've gone through, like the home buying process and just like things like that, where I start to question taxes is another one, where I start to question, like, sorry, what did I. What did I learn in school that I'm like still using right now? And
Literally.
yeah, so when I started learning about the nervous system and the body, that was another moment, like my biggest moment yet, where I was like, sorry, why have I not known this? And I'm learning this in my late 20s. And so when it comes to the body, we have grown up, so many of us, in an era where it's like, don't cry, you're overreacting, you're so dramatic, you're so emotional, throw dirt on it, keep going. And even me, coming from a policing culture, I would take 911 calls that literally still impact me to this day because they were
Can
so
imagine.
traumatizing. And they wouldn't even give you a minute. Like they were like, there are more 911 calls in the queue. Like, let's get a move on. It was absolutely insane thinking back, like the way that we are just taught to push through and not take time to feel our emotions. Now, we're not always able to feel our emotions truly and fully in the moment, but we need to at some point. And so therapy started to become cool. Like people are like, I'm in therapy, like I'm in therapy. Like I'm even like that. But in therapy, we're intellectualizing things. We're still not feeling our emotions, we're understanding them. And so when I started to learn more about emotional health, I started to see that when we were experiencing our dominant emotions and also our secondary emotions, there are certain chemicals and hormones that are being released in our body. And so, something like anger, for example, we're releasing adrenaline, cortisol. There are lots of things that get released during that. And our body's natural completion cycle requires us to do things to actually get that out of the body and express them. And we do not do that. So we can really look to animals as such an inspiration, like my dog, Ruby, and Ash's dog, Luna. When they go through traumatic or stressful experiences, they shake and then they move on, right? Birds also do this. Hyenas also do this. Every single animal has a way of coping with stress and trauma or fear. And so there are certain ways in which, when we are experiencing envy, when we are experiencing anger, when we are experiencing grief, there are certain ways that our body is supposed to move and release in order to get that out of the body. We don't do that. And so it gets lodged in our body and it creates inflammation. It creates mental, emotional, physical, sexual, social, not health, the opposite of health, right? It causes issues, it causes diseases, it causes chronic illness. I'll never forget that Lululemon bag when I was growing up. That's like, stress is the cause of 99% of all illness. And that is so, so true. And in that, I will add that it's actually our inability to deal with stress that is the cause of so much illness, right? And so for me, whether it's inside of a group session or my favorite, private sessions, let's take Ash as an example. Maybe she is experiencing a lot of anger in terms of something that's happening in a relationship in her life. She gives me details about this, right? I get all the tea, all the hot goss. Then we move into a somatic session. I am intentionally using the things that she has told me against her during the breathwork portion to awaken those feelings inside of her again and reactivate her. And then after we get her all fired up, then we're moving into the somatic therapy and I'm moving her through that process, whether it's through her breath, whether it's through her voice, whether it's through shaking, whether it's through specific type of movement, and in order to get that out of the body and start to process it and release it. So sometimes this looks like an hour-long session. Other times, maybe I'm super frustrated about something and I take 5 minutes to just feel it. And so if I was to recommend people to start to do one thing, it would be that intuitive work around, okay, you're feeling joy. Okay, you're feeling anger. Okay, you're feeling frustration. Okay, you're feeling jealousy. Set a timer for 1 minute and maybe just start to drop into like, what does my body like want to do right now to start to channel this and start to move this through, as opposed to just sitting here on my bed, stewing and ruminating about this thing, and then going on to TikTok to like distract myself from the way that this feels. So that would be my recommendation. And in that, you might come and say, I didn't feel anything in my body. And that's how we know you're super disconnected and you're all up in your head, which is totally, totally normal.
Yeah. It's so interesting, right? Because there's so many emotions that we want to suppress. Even for me, like I said, I hate feeling jealous more than anything. I just
Yeah.
want to stuff it down and never feel it in my life. And that's why I struggle so much with it, is because I have for so many years just suppressed. And it's so interesting. I always used to think, oh, crying, that's just how I let my emotion out. And yes, I think that's a part of it, but that's not all of it. I thought that I was processing my emotions because I was a crier, yet
Right.
I wasn't allowing myself to fully feel all of the different ranges of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And since I work a lot with clients on intuitive eating and listening to their body,
Yeah.
again, it's one of those things where even me, I used to be a health and fitness coach where I was like, here's your diet plan, here's your workout plan. because that's not going to do anything for you other than maybe help you get a result for the period of time that we're working together. But if you want real results, you have to learn how to tap into your own body, listen to your
Mhm.
own emotions, listen to your own body in terms of movement and, intuitive eating. A lot of people feel resistance towards intuitive eating because they're like, well, my body wants to eat a box of cookies. I'm like, okay, that's not actually what your body
Yeah.
wants. That might be some sort of craving or emotional pull, but that's not actually what your body wants. So, yeah, I just find emotions so interesting. And the fact that I'm learning about this and I'm almost 30
Yeah.
blows my fucking mind.
Like, what is that about? It's very, very confusing. There are so many structures, there are so many rules and so much programming that literally keeps us either knowingly or unknowingly like at our worst. You know what I mean? When we are suppressing everything and settling and dysregulated and unfulfilled, like there are all these, oh, you should do this when you're feeling this way. You should do this when you graduate high school. You should do this in terms of your relationship. You should do this in terms of your career, your health. And so much of it is not designed for like your highest good. And your highest good does not look the same for every single person. But so many people feel so bad like in their life. They feel so bad in their body, in their health, in their relationship, in their career. And yes, you know what I mean? We need to make ends meet. And yes, life has things that it asks of us. And yes, there are things that we have to do that we don't want to do. But we at some point have to take a step back and be like, this is really why we think that we came here is just to hate ourselves, be unhappy in our jobs, in our relationships, in our body, and work at a job that we hate until we retire. And then we're so unwell that we can't even cross up our bucket list. And then we die. Like,
Yeah.
please. Like, there's
Oh,
no way. There's
yeah.
no way that that's what it's really about. And so, something that I love to work on, and Ash knows this, but something that just really altered my perspective on life, it really is the little things sometimes, is when I learned about the pillars of wellness, right? Like the mental, emotional, physical, social, spiritual, environmental, occupational, and financial. And so when we are feeling off in our life, it's really good to do like an audit on those areas. And maybe you feel like mentally you feel good, but emotionally you're pretty conditioned or familiar with just suppressing and not feeling. And maybe physically you haven't moved in a while. You don't get a lot of steps in. You don't have an exercise routine that you enjoy. And maybe socially, you haven't seen your friends in a while, or you feel pretty isolated. Or so then we start to see really quickly you feeling off or disconnected is not a mystery at all, right? Like we have things that you absolutely need to work on, but the problem is that once people identify that, oftentimes, like they don't know how. Like, how do I find movement that I enjoy? How do I learn how to process my emotions? And so that's essentially why we're employed, right? We are
Yeah.
employed because we were failed, in my opinion, in terms of our education system for so many different things that are actually the things that make or break whether or not we're going to have a good life. And so, sometimes I feel super pissed off that people did not get the education that they need and that they deserve. But then other times I feel very grateful to be in the position that I am in where I can be mad about that, sure. But then I can also choose to be mad about that and use that as like a jump off point to inspire me and motivate me to get my voice out there, get my work out there so that people don't have to live like in that disempowered, uneducated space where they honestly are very miserable in their lives.
Yeah, there's so many people that just think, okay, maybe I go to college and then I go and work in the corporate world and then I do this and then I do this. And it's like, are you actually happy? I
Mhm.
find myself asking that question a lot, whether I come across someone in the grocery store or even like a family member or whatever. I'm like, it genuinely makes me sad because people just think they're a victim of their own life. Oh, I remember when I was first listening to podcast episodes where and these really successful people where they were telling me that I was in charge of my own life and my own success, and everything that I have in my life, positive and negative, was because of me. It blew my mind
Yeah.
because, in school and just in life, you just grow up thinking, okay, I'm just going to do what my mom did, or I'm going to
Yeah.
do what my dad did, or whatever it may be. So it's exciting and also can kind of call you out at the same time to know that wherever you are is because of you.
Yeah.
And even it's so interesting too, thinking about my own life. And sometimes I record podcast episodes and I'm like, I was literally talking to myself in that podcast episode.
Literally. Literally.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I just called myself out. And I always like to say this too, because, obviously I know so much, you know so much,
Yeah.
but it's not the knowledge, it's the implementation, it's the doing. And
Mhm.
even us as professionals in the personal development space, we can still kind of not see our own bullshit,
Oh,
honestly,
totally.
which is why I have you.
Right, exactly. We can absolutely not see our own bullshit, and it's not as though once you step into a facilitator or a coach or therapist role that you are cured and life is not going to hand you any curveballs. It's actually the opposite where I feel like I continue to see different sides of myself and get put through more and more and more and more intense situations of seeing myself and having to rely on the knowledge and the tools that I have so that I can help people get through what they are moving through. And so I actually don't want to work with someone that is perfect and has never experienced trauma, has never experienced hardship, because they can't have the same level of compassion and empathy for me. And they actually are not going to be able to help me in the ways that I need. And I also do not feel inspired by someone who has never had to work through or for anything in their life, which coming across a person like that is going to be hard to come by, honestly. Like everyone goes through their own stuff.
Yeah.
But I think we put this pressure on ourselves as coaches, as leaders to have it all together. And it's actually a lot more comforting and safe and relatable when you are open and vulnerable and people know that you are a human that's going through a human experience. I remember when I came out with it about my breakup, people were really inspired by the fact that they had no idea that that was going on in my life. And in that, I was unknowingly being such an embodiment of my own work of continually showing up for myself and having the emotional resilience to still show up for my business, my coaching calls, my email, my podcast, my content. And people had absolutely no idea what was going on behind closed doors because I've built that skill of being able to heal and process and feel when appropriate and also like keep moving and keep like putting my foot on the gas. And so those experiences make people more inclined to connect with me and also work with me because they're like, I want to be able to like go through one of the most difficult times of my life and still run like a successful business. You know what I mean? That sounds incredible instead of letting those times of your life like take you down and out.
Yeah. I spent the majority of my life trying to be a perfect person from the outside. And so having to unlearn that was really hard for me
Mhm.
because, I grew up like super shy, quiet, mute, afraid of everything. And then I learned that, oh, I can just be someone who other people want me to be in order to be liked or loved or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. And so I literally spent 90% of my life building up to be that quote unquote perfect person.
Yeah.
I wanted the body. I wanted, even from a vanity perspective, being a business owner, that felt cool to me.
Right.
Becoming
Yeah.
a 49er cheerleader, that was kind of one of the moments where I was like, I think I'm wanting this for the wrong reasons. Like
Who is this for?
I genuinely enjoyed the experience, but there was a lot of times where I'm like, whoa, I think I'm really doing this for the wrong reasons. And
Yeah.
it kind of spiraled me into, what do I really want? Like,
Yeah.
what do I truly want? And again, I think so many people think they want something, but they want it for other people or the wrong reasons or whatever it may be. People don't
Yeah.
understand how to tap into their own intuition and actually listen to what their actual wants are. And even something as
Mhm.
simple as exercise, it's like, how am I supposed to find something that I like doing? It's like, you got to try some things. I didn't think
Yeah.
I was going to start pole dancing. Like, that is just so random. And honestly, like, I had my own perception of pole dancing in itself. And then I started doing it and I was like,
Yeah.
wow, now I'm obsessed. So I'm curious too, in terms of nervous system and emotions, how do you recommend people start to tap into their own intuition? Do they have to completely regulate and completely handle the emotions, or is there a way that kind of in tandem they can kind of start to tap into their intuition as they're kind of healing these things?
Totally. So, first and foremost, I want to say when it comes to what you want to do for work, what you want to do as your go to movement and exercise, what you want in a partner, what you enjoy, like these are all things that are really, really difficult to find the answer to when we do not know who we are. And when we are a byproduct of what our parents and society want for us. And when we also spend a large majority of our life in a fawn nervous system response, which is people pleasing, right? So, people pleasing and personal freedom cannot coexist. So, there are elements of identity work, nervous system regulation, body work that are ultimately all going to lead you to, who am I above all of this noise, above all of these walls that have been built around me, that have built up my personality? Because the way that your subconscious mind is built, the way that your nervous system is formed, is through that process that we move through of, I'm going to do something, say something, be something. The people around me are going to respond in a way that's either praising me or scolding me. And then I, from that point, am going to build my personality off of what's going to get me the most love. When we can realize in adulthood that we are safe, we can take care of ourselves, and our life is not threatened when we stand in the full expression of who we are, we can start to make decisions based on what we actually want versus what we used to need to do in order to survive. At 30 years old, you need your parents in terms of maybe having a relationship with them is fulfilling to you, maybe not, but they don't keep you alive anymore, right? They're not feeding you, they're not financing you. For a lot of people in your 20s and your 30s, you are stepping into more of your independent era. So we don't have to do everything. And this concept really fascinates me because so many people hold back investing in things that they want to invest in, moving into a career or a relationship that they want to be in because they fear the judgment of their family members and their siblings, their aunts and uncles, whoever. However, they don't want to be like those people. Like, I'm like, is that who you want to be? Is that the relationship you want to be in? Is that the finances that you want to find yourself in? Is that the so you're basing your decisions off people who, yes, you care about what they think about you, but you don't want to be or do anything like them. And so when I was starting to build my life in a way that felt really fulfilling to me, and other people were saying to me, don't do this. This is a bad choice. And I'm looking at your life saying, I don't actually need or want to take advice from you, bitch. Like, I'm not looking to have a life that is similar to yours at all. So take a seat and shut the fuck up, basically, right?
Yeah.
Because, like they say, you don't want to take advice from people that you don't want to swap lives with them. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of people are living in a world that they have created for other people. And then they wonder why they feel confused and they feel unfulfilled. And so, at the core of that, when it comes to the solution, yes, it's getting into a regulated state and specifically out of that fawn nervous system response. Yes, it's about like tapping into your own body and mind so you can actually hear your own thoughts, like beyond the conditioning. But most of all, it's just getting to know yourself, like getting to know yourself. Who am I? If you take away all these people and all these beliefs, and you take away all of my belongings and my job title and my girlfriend title, like who are you beneath all of that? And most people do not know the answer to that question. And so they do not know the answer to any of the questions that come on top of that.
It was really hard for me to get to know myself.
Yes.
Because like I said, I built myself into this person who I thought that's what I wanted, and then quickly realized that I was doing that for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you were someone who always knew who they were, or when did you start to really understand who you are and who you wanted to be and what you wanted out of life?
Yes. It would have been 2018 when I invested in therapy, a retreat, and a life coaching program in the same year.
Slay.
Slay. Why not do all three? You know what I mean? Love,
Yeah.
love to overwhelm
All
herself. Love that
in.
for her. Yeah. So it would have been at that time because I felt very miserable inside. And I was definitely someone who was in the career, in the relationship, in the city, in this, like, I didn't like myself. I didn't feel good in my body. I didn't feel good in my job. I didn't feel good in my relationship. I had shitty friends. I didn't have hobbies that I enjoyed, but everyone was like, "You're so successful." And I'm like, "Really?
Is this what it feels like? Because
Really?
this sucks.
Because I don't like this. Like, this doesn't feel like I'm winning by any means."
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I started to really, really understand myself and getting to know myself. It was challenging because when I got to know that person, I was like, I don't really like her that much. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the
Yeah.
coping mechanisms that she has and the reactivity that I had at that time that I just like blamed on being an Aries and things of that nature. I didn't really like who I was. And so it definitely took me a long time to figure out who I was and start to recreate who I was so I could be someone that I was really proud of. And I remember in therapy, my therapist had said to me once, and now I use this in some of my branding sometimes, so shout out to my therapist, but she had said that she wanted me to create a life that I would want to live over again. And to
Mm.
me, also, I wanted to create a version of myself that I would be proud to step back into. And so those things take a lot of work. So I think people look at my life now and maybe they experience some level of inspiration or maybe even envy, but it was not always like this. Like when we do look at those emotional, mental, like all of those pillars that go within wellness, I found myself a couple years ago in a spot where I was at zero. Like the tank was at empty in all of those areas. I was not happy at all. And it did take some time, but ultimately I got to see the reason why I was like that in all of those areas and started to get a lot of clarity around, okay, well, what would make me happy? And over the years, I've had a lot of really difficult conversations with people that I love of like, hey, we have different ideas of what it means to be successful. We have different ideas of what it means to be healthy. We have different ideas of what it means to be in a fulfilling relationship. And so I would say that in some ways, I would definitely be the black sheep. I even hesitate to like, use that word because that's something that my family member calls them a lot. And I'm just like, ew, is that me? But I'm kind of like the standout in my inner circle because my life is so different. But it's a positive thing. But at first it wasn't, right? At first I was getting a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism, a lot of this is the wrong choice and I wouldn't make that choice. And if it were up to me, you know what I mean? But listening to my inner voice has led me to a life that I would actually want to do over again. I think that's a really important question to ask yourself, right? Like, so if I had to go back to high school, I wouldn't go. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want
Yeah.
to go. I wouldn't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
And I do not want to feel that way when I'm on my deathbed. Like I want to be like, wow, like I would just redo that all over again. That was so much fun. Like not to say that every day is fun. Of course, we sometimes have days where we're having little mentee bees or it's just like a stressful day, of course. But for the most part, like even the past year of my life, like I'm like, I would do that over again. You know what I mean? I would go to
Yeah.
Bali again and Greece
Yeah.
again and do this and get certified in this. Like it's been so much fun. And a lot of people can't say that. And I think that's how you know like you're out of alignment. And so it takes a lot of work, but ultimately you want to live a life that you enjoy.
Yeah. And even coming from me, this is funny, but it's not that deep. Like, we're here, yes, success in your own way, though, right? And even that was my intent with naming the podcast the It Girl Mindset,
Mm-hmm.
because when I think of It Girl, we think of, oh, maybe like those mean girls in high school that were like bullies and like have the glossy skin, whatever it may be. But
Right.
I'm in the process of creating my own version, becoming my own version of an It Girl. So I would love to hear what your version of an It Girl
Yeah.
is.
Oh my God, I love that. I do want glassy skin though, I'll
Oh,
be
yeah, same.
honest.
Also, you're glowing. I actually commented that on your Instagram today. I was like, oh my God, you're glowing.
Oh, I love that so much. So, I mean, there are so many things, but to me, I think when I used to think about being an it girl, I thought a lot about a luxury lifestyle, you know what I mean? With like the bags and the first class and stuff like that. And to me, when I'm at my Pilates class or yoga class at 12 o'clock on a Monday, I'm like, I am so
Yes.
lucky. Like, this is my version of like being that girl and like living that life. So I think for me, having my routines and being able to slowly eat my breakfast, my lunch, and like have my coffee in the morning and not be rushing out the door to work in corporate clothing that make me feel really uncomfortable. Like being the it girl is just living a really present and pleasurable life. And also to me, I'm really just out here trying to be the most grounded, regulated, healthy, resilient woman that I can be. And one of the biggest compliments to me is when people are in my presence and they say that I feel very like grounded or very safe, or they say, you know, I just like felt like I could just really like share that with you or like open up to you. And that is my version, I think, of being an it girl, where like
Yeah.
my life feels like a warm hug. And as a result, I feel like a warm hug in the presence of other people. And I can be a safe person for other people. So it's definitely changed. Like what I thought I wanted versus what I
Yeah.
actually want is so, so different. And to me, it really comes down to peace and presence and safety and comfort and ultimately like fulfillment. Just like someone that is fulfilled in every area of their life. I went to coffee with a girlfriend yesterday, and that was actually our first date, if you will, and we were getting to know each other. And she asked me about my work because, of course, everyone's like, I don't understand, you know, at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And so I was explaining it, and she's like, you just like radiate when you talk about it. Like, I'm like literally curious now because you're just like so excited about it when you're talking about it. And I want to feel that way about my health, about my boyfriend, about my work, about my friendships, so that other people get to take that in and start to question, ooh, you know what I mean? I don't feel that way and I want to feel that way. And maybe that will inspire them to start to create some change in their own life. And so I have to go first and kind of fall in love with every area of my life in order to truly be radiating from a place of embodiment when I'm talking about it to people. And then they will maybe start to question, maybe I deserve this too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that so
Yeah.
much. And you really do radiate. I love hearing you talk about your work. It inspires me to speak more highly of mine, you know, and just your confidence exudes. You're also fucking hilarious. Like
Thank you, Lord.
it's so funny when we got on the couples unmasked call on Sunday, I was literally giggling at everything you said, and Eric's like, wow, you really love her, don't you? I'm like, I really do.
You're like,
I
and she really loves me. She loves me too. We're in love.
like I literally was like, like every
He was
single thing
laughing
you were
too,
saying.
though. Please,
No,
please. I have the recording, bitch. He was laughing so
oh no,
hard
he
too.
was laughing too. Yeah,
he was like
said,
keeled over at one point.
Yeah, he confirmed. He's like, wow, she is so funny. I'm like, I know, and it's perfect. I was telling him how was it a personality test or something you took where
Yes, exactly.
your number one thing was being funny, and you're like, how is this gonna help me?
Yeah. How is
and
this
it
gonna help me as a life
really
coach?
does. Yeah, it really does though, because we talk about some deep, serious things, and the ability to lighten it even just a little bit is so, so helpful. But yeah, you're hilarious, and I'm your biggest fan.
Thank you so much.
Becca, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was so, so fun. Just tell everyone where they can find you.
Yay. So I am most active on Instagram. So that's at Beck Nichols. So it's Becca without the A. And then I have a podcast called There She Glows, new episodes every single Thursday. And my website is www.beccanichols.com. So all of my programs and everything is over there. But thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Yes, of course. And all the links are down in the show notes below. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. And I'll see you in the next episode.